There are many videos on YouTube with people offering their 2 cents as to the pros and cons of having a spiritual teacher or spiritual mentor. I am not here to sway you one way or the other on the matter, but to offer you information so that you can make your own decision. What we will discuss in this video are the different names or labels that are associated with people who are hopefully here to just guide you along your journey, as well as ways to receive that guidance. We'll then get into stepping into our power, owning our power, not giving our power away, and we'll wrap up with me sharing with you my experience from having a spiritual mentor over these last 6 years. So before we dig in, I am once again Tina Moody, and I am the author of The Spiritual Awakening of an Analytical Mind, which is a guide for people like me who are stepping onto this path of self-discovery. I am also the co-host of the podcast Intuition Talks. And truly, I am still a newbie, I think. I am 7 years into my journey, and I am learning, growing, evolving each and every day and trying to bring in more information. So I hope that you will all watch to the end as well, to learn how to enter a drawing for a signed copy of my book, as well as if you want to throw a friend's name in the mix for a second book to be signed. So listen to the end and I will give some details there. As I Googled and I pulled up on YouTube a bunch of different videos to just see what would pop up, we had spiritual teacher, we had spiritual advisor, we had spiritual mentor, we had spiritual coaches, we had spiritual counselors, we had soul life coaches, we had life coaches. Well, for that matter, we could take off spiritual from each one of those, and there's this whole plethora of titles, right? And I'm sure there's no consistency around there because it's just somebody making the name of what they want to be. Anyway, that's my 2 cents there. So I didn't bother looking up the definitions because they're not going to be consistent for the most part. So why bother? Why does it matter? Here's what I can tell you in general terms. What we or you or most of us are likely looking for is somebody to hold sacred space for us, occasionally, or maybe it's on a more regular basis. And perhaps we're looking for somebody that has a religious affiliation, or maybe somebody with no religious affiliation. That's up to you. We are looking for someone to nurture and help guide our journey. And perhaps we're looking for somebody to help us heal some aspects of ourselves that we know are sitting there on the surface, as well as some of those that we don't even realize quite yet. And the real goal is for somebody to kind of help usher us into finding this truest version of ourselves. Now, since we are each a unique snowflake, like I mentioned in the last video, what are the chances that one person or one thing is going to fit those needs, right? We're all growing and we're all evolving as well. So what may fit today may not fit tomorrow. So if we're really being honest with ourselves, the chance that one person that we can throw all of our chips, all of our whatever it is in one basket are pretty darn slim. And that's okay. So just food for thought on that. I'm not trying to beat anybody up, but just food for thought. So why can't we have a spiritual mentor that fits X need over here, who we see on a regular basis, or maybe it's just occasionally, and then other spiritual teachers? And a spiritual teacher can be a book that calls to us. It can be somebody that we follow their podcast. It can be somebody that we follow their YouTube site. It can be somebody that we just happen to, a topic comes to mind and we, put it into the YouTube search and it comes back. It can be a like-minded community. It can be, a sisterhood or a brotherhood that you come in touch with and works for a moment. It could be our intuition when we sit and still. That's a spiritual teacher. Or if we journey and we connect to spiritual guides, it can be anything. Truly, these are all teachers, coaches, guides, mentors. And so it's for us to decide, not for anybody else to decide. Okay, so we're going to get into our power because I want to make sure that we all understand this. One of the goals should be to step into our power as we're venturing down this journey and not to give that power away. And that may be some of the cons that people are talking about in some of the videos too, because so many of us give away our power in life, assuming that somebody else is the expert. And that doesn't just apply to the spiritual journey, that applies to everything. So for this situation, we may not be the expert. Like, I am nowhere near an expert on most things. And we may not be where we want to be fully on this journey. And we can learn so much from other people. But we just need to remember that where they're coming from has been from their journey, and we are snowflakes and this is our journey. So they're not going to match up 100%. So keep that in mind too, as you try to figure out if a spiritual mentor or spiritual teacher makes sense for you, which is why I'm guessing you clicked on this video. So I'm not going to send out the energy of fear. We have enough fear in this world today, but go listen to your gut, I guess. Listen to that intuition that's telling you, does this person feel right? Does this situation make sense? Does this practice feel right for me in this moment? Because again, we're evolving and it may change. And establish your boundaries. Do what feels right for you. And you can be cautious without having fear, because you can stay in your power. So be aware. Also, if you are jumping from one thing to another, going from one class to one session to an instruction, and that, testing things is great. Like, that's how we find out what sticks on this path. Yet I kind of advise, I guess, you to give pause to it, because see how it truly feels within you. We need to integrate some of this stuff. We can't just keep jumping at the surface level, and see what feels good within you. So that was my other little piece of advice. Now, regarding your power, here's one last thing to keep in mind. We each have our own perceptions that have developed over time through our experiences. That becomes the lens that we then place on what we project out into the world. So if some of these videos are in this case, judging or cautioning you against getting a spiritual teacher or spiritual advisor, please keep in mind that that was that person's experience with their lens and their perception with another, spiritual teacher, whoever it was, for that instance. So it doesn't mean that that's going to be your experience, nor will your experience be like somebody else's. So you've got to go out and decide these things for yourself, and not just take what I'm saying or what somebody else in a video is saying for truth. This video is coming from my perception, with my lens that I project out into the world, and you have yours. So just keep that stuff in mind, and remember it as you are watching videos or listening to podcasts or even reading books. Everybody has their own lens, and have had their own experience with a situation or with a person. So there's that. Because scientists, for example, even though they attempt to have an unbiased view going into, say, an experiment, their intentions or their lens can reflect and alter the outcomes of a scientific experience, which I think is fascinating. So that's my lecture there. And, for that matter, I kind of go through life with not buying 100% of what everybody's selling, because it doesn't apply to me, right? So use your own filtration system to find a couple nuggets within whatever experience you have that you could use on your journey for a moment or for the whole thing, and then move on. Can see my cheeks getting pink from the overhead lights. I normally don't sit here. Anyway, to wrap things up, let's get into what has been my experience with my spiritual mentor. And first, I want to say, and I know I'm maybe harping on this, my spiritual mentor is one aspect of my school of spiritual teachers. So for me personally, through this journey, books have just been falling off the bookshelves to me, and I've been devouring those, and I trust that whatever jumps off the bookshelf at the bookstore or the used bookstore or whatever, my personal library, then that book is meant for me for that moment, and I will find the nuggets in there that I need to grow. So there's that. I also listen to probably consistently a couple podcasts, maybe not a lot, a couple folks on YouTube, I guess pretty regularly. And from there, I would say occasionally I'll reach out to a, intuitive healer or have a session with somebody. I look to myself through meditation for my own inner work sometimes and answers there. I will journey sometimes to connect to spirit guides. I will, if I feel that pull to connect with community, I will find my tribe, and sometimes that evolves. And honestly, I learn a ton through my children. And sometimes that's integrating what I have read, and then I will see it play out through them. So these are all my spiritual teachers to help me grow into the person that I want to become. So there's that. Now, and yes, I do have a spiritual mentor, and I've been extremely fortunate to have this mentor for the last 6 years. And he arrived somewhat early on my journey. I think I had been on my journey for about a year when I started seeing him. He is my shamanic guide. I see him occasionally with no set schedule. Currently, it may be every couple of months, or it could be every 6 months. Early on, I was a bit of a mess, so I saw him, I think it was every other week there for the initial phase of it. And how does my mentor mentor me? That has evolved as well. Early, I was coming off the divorce that kind of kicked me onto this path. And speaking of kick, he kicked my butt a little bit in some ways. And that was to get me out of victimhood, for me to step into my power. And that has been a huge part of my personal path. He's helped usher me, into that power in many, many ways. He was instrumental in me taking the leap to not only write this book that I have, but to publish it. And he has been one of my biggest supporters with that. I actually went to see him a couple of days ago, and I was trying to think, I knew I was going to do this video, and I thought I might be able to video something, even if it was the ride up there. But then I realized that that is my sacred space. That is between him and me and whatever spirits want to show up. So I apologize that I didn't take you along to experience any of that. Maybe we'll find some way to do that in the future. But he is really my reset. I can feel when it's been a while, and I'll reach out to set up an appointment. He guides me in shamanic practices, like I said, and connecting to nature with reverence, as well as to myself, quite honestly. His teachings have really evolved with me, or maybe it's the more so that I've evolved, I guess. And he gives me tough love when I need it. I was thinking as I was writing this out of one time that probably a couple of years ago, that he brought something up from one of my very first times with him. And I said, how can you possibly remember that? And he said, because I'm fully present in every moment of our, sessions, be it mine or somebody else's. And he's like, so of course I remember it all. And so those are the types of subtle lessons, or maybe not so subtle lessons, that I receive all the time. Like, we need to be in the present. And, so it doesn't have to be anything that we were meaning to discuss, or that I knew I needed to work through or something like that. But the relationship has been instrumental, and I value it so, so much on this journey. And we'll continue going for the foreseeable future. So will everybody find that type of relationship with somebody? Maybe, maybe not. I think it's a journey that we each have to take, and we have to trust in some way that if we are meant to have that relationship, it will show up. It will show up when it's meant to. We all need to find what works for us, and you will do that. And perhaps it's a yoga instructor, or it's a community, or whatever it may be. It may be somebody that's been on this path and you know them and you can sit with them and have coffee on occasion, whatever it may be. Because, really, we're all just trying to step forward to find the truest version of ourselves, and we have to just give ourselves space to get there and see what pieces need to fall in place for us. As I mentioned in the last video, my goal on my whole path has been to help people like me step onto this path of spiritual awakening, self-discovery, transformation, whatever you want to call it. And I hope this video will help you in some way, and this will be a piece of it. So in case you missed my last video, I have wanted to share my book out there a little bit more. So I thought a fun way to do that as I kick off this new YouTube series, YouTube version, or a new version of my YouTube channel, is to offer up one of my books. So I would like to do a drawing, and I thought the easiest way to do that would be if people signed on to my website, which is tinalmoody.com, and to subscribe there. I only send out one email every week, every Monday morning. And if you do that, I'll see the list of people that have signed up, and I can then draw a name. And I'm going to draw it on September 22nd, which is a week from today, and pull a name, and I will sign a copy and ship it out to you. I've also thought it would be fun, that it's always nice to do something for somebody else, is that if you either email me, or on the website there's a contact page and you could do it through that, and just put the name of somebody. You don't have to offer an email. I don't want to do that without their consent. I also do a second drawing of names of people who, that you offer up, and I'll pull a name there. And so if I pull the name of somebody that you recommended, I guess, then I'll reach out to you and we'll work on getting a book to that person as well. So I'll be pulling 2 books next Friday, and I'm happy to share that with you. Oh my goodness, I just have to pause for a minute. Look how red my face is from these lights. So funny. So again, September 22nd, I will be drawing those 2 books, and we'll sign both of them and ship them out. So I hope that you will go ahead and subscribe so I can put your name in for that drawing. And thank you for watching today, or regardless of when you watch this. I so appreciate it, and I look forward to coming back on next week and sharing a video on our energy. And so until then, and in the meantime, be well and keep stepping forward.